This time on episode 338 of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we'll be discussing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, Episode 5, A Trout in the Milk, and your feedback.
I'm Stephen John Drew from the official GonnaGeek.com show, a weekly geek news podcast that is a part of the GonnaGeek network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other awesome geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
You have been granted clearance by director Alfonso Mack Mackenzie. Stand by for a S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. director.
Now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Director SP.
I'm Agent Haley.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Agent Michelle.
Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. We're a Marvel Comic Universe fan show. This show is recorded on Thursday, June 25th, 2020, live from the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. studios and broadcast Lighthouse-wide via www.geeks.live. Come join our live chat as we record. Ladies, happy National Catfish Day.
That is a very mean joke. Don't do that online. Don't. That's not a very good thing to do.
Yeah, I was going to say, in what sense of the word are we using catfish?
It's a good clarification to make, and this is the actual fish, catfish. This is not the internet catfishing, and it was made into a national day in 1987 by President Ronald Reagan, and he didn't have anything to do with the internet. So it is a thing, and apparently catfish accounts for a third of all the fish consumed in the United States.
It's a pretty big part of like Cajun and Southern food for sure.
There's various way that you can prepare it. You can bake it. You can fry it.
There's one way you should really prepare it.
Blackened?
No, fried. Deep fried.
I'm going to go with blackened. Blackened catfishes. Actually, I haven't had it in years.
I haven't had it in a long time either. I think the last time I had it was when I was at Papado's. But if I was to go out in the wild and catch my own catfish, I would fillet it. I fillet all fish. I just don't do the whole fish on a grill sort of thing.
I don't think that's a good idea to do with catfish anyway. Definitely fillet the catfish. Did you know that it's called noodling when you just reach in the water and grab a catfish with your, like, you just kind of wiggle your hand around in a hole in the water? And the catfish bites your hand and you just pull it out? It's called noodling.
I did know that.
The idea is not for the catfish to bite your hand. The idea is to get the catfish from the gills. That's the idea.
In that case, I have seen way too many people improperly noodling.
Yeah, they probably get bit because they don't know what they're doing. I wouldn't know what I was doing. And I would definitely wear like hard underwater gloves, which you can get. I mean, deep sea divers get them and stuff like that. But yeah, I've got this phobia about getting bit by fish, and it just, even though I'm a fisherman, I just don't like getting bit by fish.
And I'm sure they don't like getting bit by you.
Dun, 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 dun.
Fair enough. All right, so enough of National Catfish Day. Let's get on for the rest of the show. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fan-based podcast on the ABC television show Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in its 7th and final season, the multiple Marvel small screen series, and the Marvel cinematic and comic book universes in general.
Because of never changing your password.
If you'd like to tell us your never changed password for purely incidental reasons, you can find us at our website, legendsofshield.com.
You can leave your password that you've never changed as a voicemail at 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871.
I hope your password for your Facebook is not 1234, but if it is, anyway, you can find us on Facebook, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Podcast.
You can be reassured that we will not use your password to catfish people. And tell it to us on Twitter at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And you can use the same password on YouTube to see our videos at youtube.com/GonnaGeek.
I'm sure your Amazon device has not collected all of your passwords. After you double check that, you can enable Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. skill.
And remember, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a proud member of the GonnaGeek.com network.
We have an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to talk about. Have you all watched episode 5 of season 7?
Nope, gonna talk about it sight unseen.
Wait, that's why we're here?
Oh, see, I time traveled over a week. I didn't realize there was another episode.
So we're going to take a slight pause, let the ladies watch the episode, and get right back. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, Episode 5, A Trout in the Milk, was broadcast on ABC June 24th, 2020. Michelle, who is the director of the episode?
This episode was directed by Stanley M. who has 6 directing credits starting in 2014, including a film called The Grim Sleeper, 2 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and a TV movie called I Do or Die, a Killer Arrangement.
Okay, I'm checking to see if the Grim Sleeper is the one that I'm thinking of. Oh, he did Lizzie Borden Chronicles too. But yeah, the Grim Sleeper, fascinating case, absolutely terrifying. And it looks like, I think he is. Yes, it's a documentary, and it's really good.
All right, so Lauren, since you have now delved deeper into Stanley Brooks' past and his filmography.
It is not, in fact, that Grim Sleeper, but it is based on the actual Grim Sleeper, of which there is a documentary called The Grim Sleeper.
Okay, so now you may redeem yourself by going over the writer of the episode.
The writer is Iden Baghdadchi, who has 2 writing credits starting in 2016, 2 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Slingshot, and 3 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And remember, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. showrunners for the entire span of the show are husband and wife team, Maurissa, Tancharoen, and Jed Whedon. Haley, the title of the episode is A Trout in the Milk, and we often equate the theme of the episode to the title of the episode. So what happened in the episode that is equating to A Trout in the Milk?
Well, you remember in Captain America Winter Soldier, he talked about how terrible the food was in his time period. Well, Sousa lived in the same time period, and they used to make chocolate milk by stirring it with a trout. So that's what Trout in the Milk is referencing.
That would be gross.
I feel sick just thinking about that.
I don't think that's what it was about.
Pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, Lauren, tell me you got something else for me.
Okay, I had to look it up to see. I was like, is this a real saying? We have some weird sayings. Yes, it is a real saying. The meaning, and this is pulled from the site Quora.com, Quora.com. The meaning is that although you did not see the dairy farmer do it, he most probably dipped the milk pail in the stream to water down the product. So not direct evidence, but a very strong circumstantial case. It is attributed as follows. Some circumstantial evidence is very strong, as when you find a trout in the milk, and that was by Henry David Thoreau.
Simplify, simplify, simplify. It's my buddy, Henry David Thoreau. Interesting stuff. And thankfully, Coulson actually comes out and says circumstantial evidence. So we're good to go for the person that has not gone back and researched it. But we did. So that's what we do. Also, in the introduction, it was probably the most unique of all of the introductions to every single episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know we've had a few, especially this season, but this was absolutely unique, wasn't it, Michelle?
Oh, this took me back. I am old enough to remember this style of TV introduction. The theme music, the reading of names, there actually being a song of some sort. Just, it was cheesy. It was retro. It was great.
And I love they went through several iterations of intros that were in the 70s and 80s. You know, you had the A-Team with Mac, you know, doing the thing. And at the very end, you had the cheesy Jeff Ward smile, you know, Deke's the smile, as like any episode of Chips ended, you know, with the smile and them jumping or laughing or anything like that. Also, The Greatest American Hero ended that way every single time, too. How do I know this? Is because I recently watched every single episode of it.
It reminded me of like the Mod Squad. Like if you remember the 70s series, the Mod Squad. Oh, and fun fact, when I was looking at IMDb, Iden Baghdadchi, who I just completely flubbed all of her credits, said that while they were looking up old 70s cop shows on YouTube to try to find inspiration for the intro, they found one. You know how they always used to be like episode, blah, blah, blah. And they would read the title. They found one called A Trout in the Milk. So that's why they decided, oh, we have to use this as our title.
I went into IMDb and I put in A Trout in the Milk, and an episode came up of a TV show. I wish I would have remembered which one it was, but it is on IMDb. If you Google or go into IMDb and Trout in the Milk, there are two official television episodes titled the same thing. I didn't think you could do that. I thought each individual episode had to be something completely different.
No, that's only...
No.
Yeah, there are certain roles where you can have the same name about certain things.
Okay. It's from the show, The Streets of San Francisco.
Okay.
Wait, isn't that the, Michael Douglas or Kirk Douglas?
Yep, Michael Douglas. Carl Malden, Michael Douglas, Roscoe Lee Brown, Brenda Sykes.
Oh, that is quintessential 70s TV right there.
I had a slight, now it wasn't exact because it wasn't obviously the same, but I had a slight Charlie's Angel vibe when I was watching it the very first time. And then I caught like different references across the board. So
yeah, I kept waiting for more hair flips, but
they should have had Jeff Ward do that too when he's coming in just, okay, I shouldn't have done that. That hurt. That hurt.
oh.
An on-air podcast injury.
Yeah. Lauren tried to do a hair flip.
First of all, I have about an inch and a half of hair, so it didn't work.
I thought you were going to hold up your fingers and say this much hair.
I was trying to measure. I'm like, how much hair do I have? So yeah, first of all, that didn't work. And second of all, I did it with way too much effort and kind of, I don't know if the pop is going to pick up in the audio.
Oh, it was great. Daisy's feathered hair had feathers. Like it was just like feathered and feathered again. It was the shoes, the bell bottoms.
All right. So let's go into a couple of characters that we've been following their progression this season. Let's start with May, because her lack of emotions is continuing. It's not like she's regaining her emotions. She's just learning how to cope with feeling others' emotions. I've got a question. How long does the effect last? Does it differ from like how much contact that she's had? Or because the whole drunk thing, the contact high thing that she did, she recovered from rather quickly. So I don't think it lasted too long.
I think part of it's how strong the emotion she's feeling is.
That could be because the guy that she ran into on the street of New York, she went after and then equated those feelings right to Coulson too.
Yeah, we've seen from our audience eye view, it seems to be not that long, like maybe a minute and a half. But I definitely feel like the after effects of her touching drunk people did seem to last a little longer, but that's also probably for comedy.
We'll see where it takes us. I have no idea where it's going to take us. She did get to use it, though. She used it on General Stoner, so talk about that later. Let's move on to Yo-Yo. We've been following her and her lack of ability to use her speed, which showed up again. She was trying to leave Zephyr before it jumped. She only had 10 seconds by the time she was running, and she didn't make it. A couple of questions there. If she did have her speed, how would that work leaving the Zephyr and then the Zephyr leaving? Would she snap back to the place that she was standing in the Zephyr to start with and then fall to the ground, or how would that work?
That's kind of how I took it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, she didn't do that. She didn't make it out the door. So.
Yeah. It's episode 5, and we're still not getting into the deal with Yo-Yo. This is something that I've been concerned about. And we're almost halfway through the season.
But they're definitely going to get to it. It's too big of a thing not to get to. They just did May 1st.
Yeah, but now we have an issue with May. Now we have this whole new thing with Gemma and what's on Gemma's neck and why is she confused and how come she needs Enoch and where's Fitz and how messed up is the timeline? I'm sorry, I had to not use a certain word because they are, and I like Sousa's trying to bring up timeline rules and even all of them were just like, just don't. But I'm like, yes.
Literally right before he did that, my spouse was watching with me and Scott was like, so if they've changed the past, I'm like, don't even bother trying to. It works how it works for TV. I've given up.
Let's go back to Gemma Simmons because I want to explore this a little bit more. If you haven't gone back and rewatched the last 5 minutes of the season 6 finale, please do so. I did before I watched this season. She is clearly a different sort of robotic person. I mentioned it before on the podcast. And this could be indications of a lot of things. I know a lot of people are saying, is it possible that she's an LMD, but then she wasn't affected by the EMP before like everybody else was, like Coulson and the Chromicon. So probably not an LMD, or maybe the Zephyr shielded her. I don't know. That's a possibility. It's also a possibility that she is gotten so old that she has done enhanced cyber implants. Remember, we don't know how long it was from when we last saw her to when she came back at the end of season 6, and she keeps referencing that it's been a long time. So there is definitely something that's going on with her. We saw the Cylon red glowy back thing that was in the top of her neck. It's just unknown. Does anybody have anything but speculation at this point?
I have speculation, but I feel like it's okay. So first of all, the thing that we saw in her neck has 3 little dots. And the first thing that I thought of, y'all are all familiar with Scott Pilgrim, right? The comics, the movie. So I don't remember if it's been years since I read the comic, but I saw the movie again fairly recently. Towards the end of the movie, there's a chip in the back of Ramona Flowers' neck. That's that shape. It's the triangle. It's supposed to be like the Triforce from Zelda, but it was something that was controlling her memories. Actually, I think that was in the comic. Yeah. And because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Marvel in general are not above lifting from other things and kind of being like, hey, look, it's our homage. I wouldn't be surprised if that was sort of the same thing. We know that Simmons has had all this knowledge we've guessed downloaded into her brain, Matrix-like. And I think that what we're seeing with her memory slips is the fact that she has all these memories of one timeline and how it's supposed to go and what she needs to do to get it to go that way. Like, again, to use a different thing, like if you play RPGs, like RPG video games, there's always like quest checkpoint. And I feel like now that they're no longer hitting those checkpoints, it's starting to mess a bit with the organic computing there, her head.
And the Chromicons have their own predictor, and we're postulating that Fitz is the predictor for the S.H.I.E.L.D. team. So again, where's Fitz? And there's a lot of timey-wimey stuff that is dealing here as well. Although a lot of the comments that I was reading said things like they were glad that they tried to stay true to the Malik timeline as much as they could and the general events that happened in Malik's life and Malik's father's life from previous episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., actually. So there was a bunch of stuff that was broken. Deke corrected one thing. How'd you all feel about that? About Deke finally taking care of Freddie Malik?
I think it's exactly what the Chromicons wanted. My theory is that he had served his purpose, and what was going to be in that envelope was a picture of him dead, because the Chromicons knew he would do it.
I think it was a picture of Mac's parents.
That's what I took it as.
Well, the reason I don't think that is because they would have revealed that photo at that time, because that's not new information then.
So it just states that the Chromicons are 10 steps ahead. They knew that Deke was going to kill him. Okay.
I think that they knew that Deke was going to kill him. And, given again this past thing of every time he's there, Deke shows up. Or every time Deke shows up, he's there. He doesn't go really to the other sites. But I do feel like the picture in there was Mac's parents, considering that one Chronicom said, we're learning from the past. You had the opportunity to take out all of these people, and instead you traded that for one person because they're family. And because of that, we see them use it with Mac. It's his parents, or it would be collateral damage, and he can't bring himself to do it.
Well, then I don't think it's Mac's parents, maybe somebody else's relatives or something.
Well, hopefully we'll eventually see the picture, because it does mean something. So we'll see what happens with that in the future. I think that's a good prediction right there. What I was really excited about is not only does Enoch join the team, but like the first thing that Coulson says was, I'm sorry. Thanks for the rescue. Glad to have you back. Let's go. I think that was a great way to bring Enoch back, especially since last episode we were like, you guys are not treating Enoch fair at all.
I loved how they were really worried about him. And then they were like, he's not here with the bar. And where could he be? And then just when they needed him, he speeds up in that car, does that really cool move. And, if you would like to continue to exist, come with me.
Which is a play on words from
the Terminator.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Was that entrance, the turtleneck definitely, but I feel like the entrance was also a reference to the movie Bullet?
Yeah, except for it wasn't a Bullet car, although it's kind of hard to fit all 7 of them or whatever in a Bullet Mustang. I mean, you could do it, but you'd be piling it. And Mustang is definitely not the most economical on gas.
I have definitely been party to having 7 people in a Mustang. It's possible. It's not comfortable, but it's possible.
Yeah, I don't know if you could film that, though. I mean, you got to get the camera in there. Yeah.
Also, we were still relatively skinny college students, so.
I'm still scratching my head on why Enoch left the bar, because it was the one location that the team knew that he was going to be at. So why did he leave the bar?
To get the car.
So he could go and find them, but he would have to know that they were around. I don't know. So many questions about that. I don't think they're all going to get answered. However, the club what is it now? 1972 when they first show up, right?
1973.
1973. So they've gone from 1931 to 1973. That's 41 years. The password to get into the club hasn't changed the entire time.
We didn't learn about changing passwords until 1998.
Exactly.
And then a lot of people still don't do it anyway, so.
That's very true.
I'll have to watch it again. I think Coulson was just touching the button once and he got the letter to show up. He wasn't doing the text thing that we all did, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, where you'd have to cycle through. Like if you wanted the last letter C and 1, you'd have to go 111 to get the C. I didn't see any of that.
Just painful memories.
And then all of a sudden, for some reason, it double clicks for some reason, and it's just like, really?
Or like you're trying to get to the next letter, and then somehow you end up with like 4 A's, and you're like, why didn't a C come up?
Y'all people who learned how to text recently, you don't know how good you have it. I never want to go back to the dark times of pressing the button every time I wanted to get to the letter.
Also, it was like 10 cents per text.
Yes. So I've been watching a lot of VHS tapes recently, and most of them, the last 6 that I've watched, are like in the 2002 to 2004 timeframe. So I'm seeing a lot of commercials from cell providers talking about unlimited minutes or unlimited texts and stuff like that. That evolved over time. We didn't get where we are today, unlimited minutes and unlimited text and unlimited data now.
Y'all remember unlimited calls after 9 p.m.?
That was literally one of the commercials I watched.
I remember the AT&T rollover minutes commercials where it's like the kids are throwing out the rollover minutes and the mom's like, those are perfectly good minutes.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
So the one commercial that I saw recently was that they moved, and I believe it was in the BSG miniseries, is that they moved the unlimited minutes from 9 p.m. to 7 p.m. And so the guy who was announcing it was in the middle of a sorority house. So it was just pandemonium after that because he announced it right as it was 7 o'clock. So all the girls in the house went nuts.
Oh, also, you used to get to have like your family would be free calls. So you get like 5 people that you could call for free anytime. And then they expanded it to each network. You could call their customers for free. Oh, crazy times, guys.
Yeah. I remember my sister once racked up $300 in phone bills because she was talking to her boyfriend before 9 p.m. Ugh, the old days.
Yeah, I've gone through that with our older daughter. Yeah, I remember that. And I can't remember if it was text or call. It was text because she got on group text and it was really not her fault. Some of it was not her fault.
And then they started adding like you could get unlimited texting and it was like $15 or $20 more than the regular texting price. So like a teenager could easily blow that out of the water with the 10 cents a minute or 10 cents a text. And my parents, it took them like 3 months before they finally just added unlimited texting for all of us.
So around the mid 2000s, there was a split on where people went. There was a lot of carriers out there, but Verizon had unlimited text between other Verizon customers. So that caught a lot of people, but Verizon didn't have the early iPhones. So if you wanted the early iPhones, you'd have to go to the AT&T route and you'd get unlimited text between the iOS stuff because that was something that Apple was doing. So you had a lot of people, even today, that are on their plans with Verizon or AT&T was because of that splits back in the 2000s. Of course, now it's all changed. You can convert your phone number whenever you want and that sort of thing.
And now it's really easy, free, and stuff to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right. And
what? Why would we do that?
Still are people that have flip phones, by the way, and have to do that thing with the text. So just want to point that out. It's not gone forever.
Why, though?
And another thing that is not gone forever is General Rick Stoner. We get a cameo appearance, basically, by Patrick Warburton, who was the voice of the lighthouse. We actually get to see him in person. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, did I imagine it, or did he show up in a little video like at the lighthouse when they first got there?
I feel like he was in like the orientation video.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it wasn't him physically in person. It was a recording of him.
Yeah. So then we see him again, and I'm like, it's Patrick Warburton. This is great.
And a completely separate character, Patrick Warburton's mustache.
It's been a while since we have had a good mustache on the show.
He's been to a lot of HR seminars. Say.
Chastity McBride. Oh, I love that, May. I love that.
So good. This episode, the season as a whole has been just on fire, but this episode just got me.
The last thing I want to talk about is the fact that the Chromicons are manipulating anything. They're changing the rules. They returned to the lighthouse, and it was a James Bond-like film. That was awesome, by the way. Awesome reference to James Bond film and the evil henchmen and stuff like that. Project Insight was a reference to the future. I don't think it's the last time that we're going to get Project Insight, although it might be. I don't know what the Chromicons have in mind. And You have the emergence of Nathaniel Malik, who's supposed to be dead. I think he died in 1970, I believe is what they said originally in the timeline. But now he's talking to Dr. Daniel, what was his last name? Whitehall, and trying to get the powers from Daisy. So there's a lot of things that the Chromicons have set in motion, either knowingly or unknowingly. They've really sown some confusion into the mix here.
Yeah, so we have Project Insight being like 30 years too early. 30? I can't do math. It's a lot early. And then I loved seeing the old computer, and you see the names on it. I was looking for familiar names. And Bruce Banner was on that list. I guess they mentioned Peggy Carter was on that list.
Nick Fury was on that list they mentioned. I didn't read the screen, but there must have been a lot of... I'll have to go back. There's got to be a lot.
I forgot to pause and check afterwards. So we see that. We find out, okay, they're trying this again. And we also have, we have Wilfred Malik being alive still. We have Nathaniel being alive still. The guy who played young Gideon Malik actually does look a reasonable amount like young Powers Booth. So props to casting department. And something that I was very, very, very happy about when I saw the S.H.I.E.L.D. jumpsuits, they look a lot like the comic version with the blue, with the arm thing and the holster. It's just that the ones in the comics are form-fitting because clothes are hard to draw. And the ones here are like legitimate jumpsuits, like you would have if you're working on a project like that.
Yeah, first of all, R.I.P. Powers Booth, because unfortunately he did pass away. Just like Bill Paxton, there are some actors that they just can't bring back. I know that the powers that be would probably love to have those actors back, but it's just not going to happen. And I'm glad that they're bringing forward the Malik storyline with the sons now, Gideon and Nathaniel. I don't know where it's going to go. And maybe that's something that we should discuss right after the fact that we saw Zephyr 1 shoot down a rocket launching a satellite. That was awesome.
Okay. Scott mentioned this while we were watching, and I wanted to bring this up to you, SP. Were Atlas rockets launching spacecraft a thing in the 70s?
Oh, Atlas? Oh, yes. Matter of fact, I just did a space symposium over on the GonnaGeek.com network talking about Mariner 9, which launched in 1972 on board an Atlas rocket. So yes, Atlas rockets have been around for a while, and they're great for launching satellites or long missions across the cosmos.
Excellent.
Of course, it probably improved over time. They're probably not using vacuum tubes and stuff in the guidance system, but
plus they've got like Chronicom technology in these ones.
Yeah, so I think it's no problem. The fact that they were doing in 1976, the fact that they were doing laser satellites in 1976, that's a bit advanced. All right. So that's where we left off. Max says, oh no, we've given away our position. They know where we are. What do you guys think is going next? Because we're in 1976. If the Zephyr gets shot down and blown up like the bus was, they still need a way to get to the present. Predictions. Haley, let's start with you.
Well, there's actually a really easy way to time travel to the future, and that's just the slow way. So they could, freeze themselves somewhere if they needed to go forward in time. Getting backwards in time is the tricky part.
I guess the only reason why they're not really doing that is because they wouldn't know when to wake up.
These are our time travel space bags. Lets us travel through time at the speed of regular time.
If only they had somebody who didn't age and could just hang out for decades.
Deke. He eats those vegetables. He doesn't age at all.
Enoch.
Yes, that's exactly what
SV.
I meant. There you
Enoch.
go. Or even Coulson, I'd assume. Yeah. Coulson and Enoch can work the bar. Everyone else is frozen in the back room.
Okay.
Yeah, where do you think they're going to store the beers? Just like right on top of Daisy.
Right. So let's talk about where we think this is going, because now the Chromicons have changed what's going on in the future. You have Nathaniel trying to change his destiny. I mean, he should already be dead to begin with. What do you guys think? Are we going to be in the 70s for another episode? Are we going to leave the 70s, or are we stuck in the 70s for the rest of the series?
I think it's going to continue.
Not for the rest of the series.
Yeah, not the rest of the series. Again, we've been doing 2 episodes in each time period. So this would fit the pattern of another episode in the 70s.
That's what I was thinking, but that's just based on previous pattern. That's not necessarily anything. You had 2 in the 30s, 2 in the 50s. Where do you think Sousa's going to end up? I mean, he's having difficulties, but he is catching up to things, although he does probably need a change of clothes.
I really liked the interaction with him and Deke, because, yeah, if anybody knows what his experience, what he's experiencing right now, it's Deke. Deke is not in his own timeline. Sousa is no longer in his own timeline. They can bond over the present being weird. I think Sousa's going to stay with S.H.I.E.L.D. whenever they get back to any sort of status quo, because he's kind of one of the founding members, and this is just kind of what he does. I think he's going to feel like he has a duty.
Or does he get dropped in like early 2000s with a fixed leg and decide to become a New York City police officer?
We talked about that extensively last week. Michelle, you have strong feelings on that.
Why? I mean, he's Sousa. He could do so much.
Or you drop him in like the 80s and that's his son who looks exactly like him.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. It's like a great-great-grandson or some sort of weird like nephew. You know, it's kind of interesting how sometimes the great-great-grandnephew looks like somebody. It doesn't have to be. Like, I'm perfectly fine with them. To me, that's not a plot hole. It's not a plot hole. It's casting. It's Hollywood.
Yeah, it's not like we haven't had an actor play 2 different characters in the MCU before. We had Jim Maurissa in, Captain America First Avenger. And then we had his grandson, Principal Maurissa, in Spider-Man.
I'm going to take this a step further. The actor Enver, are we going to see him in a New York City cop uniform in the mid-2000s in this series?
I don't think so.
I hope not. I hope they do something more. I don't want them to, because this is something we're all predicting. And so I want it to be wrong.
Okay.
I want to be surprised.
He and Deke can go found a new tech company.
If it was his son, then, I mean, he could play his own son, I guess.
Whatever, Mr. I'm my own grandpa.
It's worked in several stories out there. Hopefully not mine. Any other predictions anybody else wants to throw out there?
I think that we're going to find out that Nathaniel Malick is infinitely worse than Gideon Malick. We all, I think, or at least I did, kind of assumed, oh, he's dead, blah, blah, blah. He's played, he was taken hostage. He was drinking milk. Obviously, he's, to use a wrestling term, the baby face of the family. And then we see him kidnap Sousa and Daisy. And we hear him trying to get a hold of Whitehall and being like, hey, I want surgically implanted powers. I think we're going to see him do really bad stuff. Or try to.
And his dad's not around to rein him back in.
Exactly.
I thought it was interesting how Deke all of a sudden really wants his grandparents to get, pressed lemons.
Bump lemons, I think is what he said.
Bump lemons. You two need to bump lemons.
To which Simmons responds with a thinly veiled condom reference, which was great.
I'm really worried about Simmons. I mean, we talked about it already, but I'm worried about Simmons. So let's
I'm always worried about my little science babies.
Yes, the science babies need to have a happy ending. We said that a couple years ago. Let the science babies have. That was one of the things that we wanted out of this series, is to have the happy ending for the science babies.
I feel bad that Ian the Costicker, I believe is his name, didn't have a job all year.
Yeah, we're 5 episodes in, and we haven't seen him yet. He was in the first episode as credited, but not appearing, and the IMDb has been without him since. I thought he was a series regular, though, and to not have him for so many episodes, I don't think you can be a series regular if you're close to not being in half the episodes.
I'm predicting we'll see him in episode 7.
Okay.
Because it's that whole build up the audience's sense of curiosity, of dread, of protectiveness, whatever, and then bring him in. And I think that, yeah, he's absent for the first half of the season. Second half, I think he's going to be very important, especially as now we are drawing ever closer to the present. To our present, I should say.
If they continue to do 2 episodes in each timeline, that would actually work out. So you had 2 in the 30s, 2 in the 50s, 2 in the 70s, and then you have one where you go through the background of where Fitz is right now, which may or may not include Simmons, and then you carry on with 4 more episodes, 6 more episodes, so 3 more sets.
2 in the 90s.
Oh, God, be in the 90s. We got to have all that denim and...
Just all denim, head to toe.
Yes, all denim.
And then back to the early 2000s again, all denim, head to toe.
And they could bump into Captain Marvel.
They could.
At least give us Goose.
That would be awesome.
It would be awesome.
I don't think they could afford the CGI for that, but
they just gave us a rocket coming out of a river. I think they can give us tentacles on a cat.
That was the whole budget.
Yeah. That's my worry.
Or they could just show him as a cat.
Yeah, we just need a cat. Cats are cheap-ish.
I can open my door and get a cat right now.
And so easy to train. I could bend down and pick up a cat.
Haley can have one walk across her desk right now.
It's what the fans want.
We will continue predictions as we go along because we still have 8 episodes to go through. So there's several episodes to get through before we're done with this whole thing. Anything else for the episode before we move on to the feedback, ladies?
I kept getting taken out of scenes by saying like, oh, the old-fashioned beer cans, oh, the old-fashioned beer bottles, and the wardrobe and the hair.
And the 8-track.
Yes. And that one guy skating by on the boombox with the short shorts and the crop top and Sousa being scandalized. Oh, it was great.
He's going to start getting acclaimed right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next time we are going to see season 7, episode 6, Adapt or Die. I hope nobody dies except for the bad guys, but we'll see next week. We had some feedback over the past week that we want to give a shout out to our listeners. If you want to leave us feedback, we have a Twitter account at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. You can go into our Discord server at GonnaGeek.com/Discord. You can also leave us a review at Podchaser or email us. And the best way to do that is to email me, Stargate Pioneer at GonnaGeek.com. We got a tweet from Mr. Paracletes reviewing the episode, or what he thought of the episode. And he said, seemed to bring up more questions than anything, especially with the 4th dimensional thinking and the analogy of bumping lemons.
That needs to become a turn of phrase.
Why not? And also on a previous episode, I threw out the fact that we love reading our reviews that we get on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, whatever you use. And then also there's another site that you can use, Podchaser. And we had Liberty Dude, who is often in our live chat. He is not in here tonight. He left a review for us. He said, this spectacular community of co-hosts are so good at communicating the enthusiasm of their content. I started watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Love the show and this podcast. Can't say enough positive comments about these podcasting agents. So thank you very much, Liberty Dude. And that's awesome that we encouraged you to watch the show.
One of us. One of us.
And finally, we got a couple of emails from 084. We're not going to go over both of them because one of the emails was sent post when we recorded last week about last week. But he did send one this afternoon about this week. And there was a lot in the email. There was the whole thing about the timeline. So his first paragraph starts off with, I feel like all the setup of the last episode really paid off here. Sousa is adapting the best that he can, but there's only so much a person can take before they start to lose it, like he did on Simmons and Deke. There's some really fresh out of the Ice Steve Rogers vibe he's putting off. I did like the on-screen chemistry between him and Daisy, though. Her showing him that not all tech is bad was a nice moment. You know, the phone with the picture, I couldn't help but thinking that that's going to come back at some point.
That was adorable.
What kind of phone did she have? I didn't quite, was it a big Samsung phone or?
I think so. I don't know. I don't know who they have a deal with.
It's pretty cool, though, that he went in with his fingers and he was making his picture bigger and smaller, bigger and smaller. So, yeah, that from somebody from 1931, that is Buck Rogers sort of stuff.
I mean, to somebody who lives now, every now and then I'm struck by something my phone does, and I'm like, we're in the future.
Exactly.
The next paragraph, he goes on and says, is LMD Simmons still a thing? I was sure this was the episode where she would reveal it at the end and then lead us into a Fitzsimmons flashback extravaganza next week. But alas, no such luck. Still, they're pushing the idea pretty hard with her and Enoch's conversation, despite the fact that she apparently wasn't affected by the EMP in episodes 3 and 4 like Coulson was. So it sounds like 084 really wants an LMD Simmons.
I don't think she is. She's something more.
R.I.P. Team Arrow. Okay, as next paragraph goes, it's clear from the writing that they're paying attention to themselves. They're acknowledging mostly everything that reviews and podcasts have questioned so far, which is interesting because this was all filmed last year, written and filmed last year, including Simmons' confusion with the random timer, the Malik chronology from season 3, and of course, May and Yo-Yo's inconsistencies in the early episodes. That impresses me considering this has been in the can for over a year. Ladies, what inconsistencies is he referring to with May and Yo-Yo?
Well, there's the fact that we have a certain expectation about how May acts and what Yo-Yo does. And I think we've commented before that they've done a really good job bringing us into the situation where we're like, wait, what's going on? And then showing us point A to point B to point C. Okay, May is acting weird, not because, like I was scared of, she was really an LMD or something, but because it's a side effect of this thing that happened in the finale. And we're seeing how the fact that she can still somehow feel emotions isn't bad writing. It's okay, no, she is literally only able to feel emotions when she contacts people and then she feels theirs. With Yo-Yo, there's the fact that, yeah, her powers aren't working. It's shaken her up because she's like, I'm only on this team because I have powers. Mac tells her, no, you know, you're a good agent anyway. And I feel like I was commenting while I was watching the episode, we've seen just excellent and really consistent character progression through the entire series.
Including this one, the bonus pack. Finally, the last paragraph was, finally, I'm hoping not to hear too much Mac hate this week. In his position, I can't say I would have flooded that base with my parents inside, even if I was the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. preventing a Hydra attack. At least he had a semi-effective plan B that hopefully won't have too many consequences next week, although I'm sure the consequences will lead to some fun action. I did see the preview for next week. I won't say anything about it because I know in particular 084 doesn't want to know anything about the future, But suffice it to say, there was some glimpses of what's going to happen, like right when the episode starts. So stay tuned for that. And as far as Mac hate, I don't really hate him. It wasn't just his parents. There was an awful lot of people, and they didn't know who was Hydra, who was not. And if they had a lot of people in the holding cells, it's like the bottom decks of the Titanic. You don't know if you're going to be able to get them out in time. So I think he did a good call, not just for his parents, although that was a main consideration, but for everybody that was in the lighthouse. That's just my opinion.
Also, wouldn't flooding the lighthouse mess with the timeline even more? Because isn't that intact in the other?
I feel like at this point, the timeline's already been messed with enough. Anything they do now, it's just, go for it.
Ah, damn it, Barry.
Go wild. Get real weird with it.
I know it's crossing the streams, but it just, damn it, Barry.
When in doubt about timelines, always blame Barry Allen.
Yep.
And the thing is with the CW Arrowverse is Flashpoint was not even a whole episode, and Barry did all that damage in less than an episode. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't think any of us here are naysaying Mac's decision.
No.
I mean, even if I was like, is he going to be like selfless and be like, oh, it doesn't matter if I'm never born. But I'm like, that's still kind of a selfish decision, because right now you don't have a named second in command, somebody pick up the slack if he vanishes out of the timeline. So, I mean, first of all, I would not be able to kill my parents to save the world. Let's face it. I am very emotional. I get very attached to people. And the guilt of that would be horrible.
Also, there's not even any guarantee that that's going to save anything.
Exactly.
The decision isn't without precedence even in this season, because remember, Mac wanted to maintain the timeline as best he could, so he prevented Deke, under Daisy's orders, from shooting Freddie Malek to begin with. So it's within the bounds of let's not change stuff up too much. He wants to shoot down Insight because it wasn't in the history to begin with, and it was 40 years too earlier, more than 40 years. So 1976, let's do public math, 86, 96, 2006. So yeah, roughly 40 years. Yeah.
I don't like time.
Nobody really does as they get older. All right. So thank you very much, everybody. If you want to contact us via email, I do send it out to everybody as soon as I get it. Go ahead and send it to Stargate Pioneer at GonnaGeek.com. In the meantime, I think it would be fun for us to go out, blow up a satellite as it's being launched, and get on out of here. I'm so glad we stuck with this podcast this long. We are getting what's turning into a great season. Can't wait to see the end of it. And I just want to thank our listeners and our viewers for sticking there with us too, because you guys are getting some great television in a summer where it's kind of hard to come by.
Thank you to everybody who has sent us your feedback or live tweeted along with us or shared your own live tweet as you're watching. We really, really, really love reading everything that y'all have to say. We love knowing that you love this show. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you to the creators of the show for getting this made before the mayhem of 2020 started. Really appreciate that. And thank you to everybody that's listening for watching along with us.
Yeah, thank you to everyone, especially my co-host. I have to admit, I had a bad day at work, was thinking about not doing this, but then even like in the pre-show, things started to turn around for me. So, yay!
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 Well, hopefully we'll all get back next week. In the meantime, I'm Director SP.
I'm Agent Haley.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Agent Michelle.
See everybody. Bye.
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 Wash your hands.
Don't touch your face.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask. Jinx.
Stay 6 feet apart.
Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to GonnaGeek.com and you will find all our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod, found at incompetech.com, and also artists on pond5.com and audiojungle.net. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual hosts and do not represent Stargate Pioneer Productions, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D, or GonnaGeek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D is the property of the Disney Corporation, Marvel Studios, and ABC. No infringement is intended. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D is copyright 2013 through 2020.